Welcome back to the channel. As you'll have seen by the first episode of my new Midget, had a bit of a problem. Let's see if we can fix it today. Well, at the end of the first video on this Midget, I was at the side of the road, the car having driven about 12 miles before spluttering to a halt. Wouldn't restart, it would occasionally fire once or twice. So I gave up and called recovery because I didn't have any tools with me. My suspicion was on fuel starvation, maybe it was muck in the tank. The other options possibly flying around, you could have the rotor arm, you could have the coil, it could have been the points, so they're all the options, so sort of pick your winner out of those. But it was about 2 hours for recovery, and after about an hour and 3/4 I was so fed up I decided to give it another go, and she started up and gave it a quick test drive down the road, seemed absolutely fine. So we cancelled recovery and drove it home. I posted on the MG Midget forum the symptoms I was suffering from, and by far and away the winner was the rotor arm. And everyone recommended I go to someone called a distributor doctor, who, to be honest, I'd never heard of. But it turns out it was only about 10 miles up the road, and it was quite handy because I knew the car did 12 miles. So set off the next day, went and took the car there so they could see exact parts I've wanted. So I fitted a new rotor arm, a new condenser, and a new set of points, and a new distributor cap, because it turned out that the major problem was, as you've probably seen this B-roll, is the original rotor arm was so loose on the top of it, and it was suggested it was a replica Lucas part, which I would believe is probably the posh word for fake. But you could see how the rotor arm was moving around on the top and taking chunks out of the distributor cap. So I fitted all those new parts. I've done about 100 miles I think now, and without any further problems on that side. And what I also wanted to do now was run through some of the fantastic comments I've had. We've never had a video take off like the first Midget one did. Great, so many new subscribers, a lot in America, so we're going to start subtitling with dollar amounts so you know what I've been spending. But I just wanted to run around quickly all the different bits that people were mentioning and just some of my thoughts and ideas on them. One big mention was the bonnet fit. We look at this side, on the driver's side, nice fit all the way down, nice shut line. Then on the passenger side, I can get my fingers in at the top, so I'm going to have a look at that. I've got a funny feeling this is the fit of the wing, but we're going to check that out at some point. Another area strong on comment was the seals, and people say, oh, well, they've just been under sealed, that's why they're black. No, it's not. I can stick my finger in there and look, under seal. The seals have been replaced, I know that much. The thing I think that does let it down is there should be a trim strip like that along the seal with the word Midget here, and this bit should be body coloured. So that's one thing I think I'm definitely going to try and sort out. The bumpers came in for a lot of discussion, as did the suspension height, and the two apparently, from my research, are related. That when they introduced these bumpers for the US market, firstly they were heavier, and also to comply with US legislation they had to make the headlights higher, and the way they did it was by raising the suspension. Now I know that's not an ideal solution. Aesthetically I do prefer the chrome ones, but for me this car is so honest, I really don't want to mess with it. Everything on it, I know it's had lots of bodywork done, etc., but it's got a very honest history, and personally, and whoever takes it on after me might have a different view, but personally I want to keep it as original as I can. Now something I had queries on was the seats, and I thought originally they were MGB seats that have been inserted, because I've never seen a Midget with these seats. However, one commenter suggested they're a Newton commercial seat. Now I don't know who they are, and maybe somebody out there has an idea, but they seem to me a lot more comfortable than what the original Midget seats look like. But let me know if you know anything more about them. And finally, the engine bay came in for a reasonable amount of discussion because of the state of it, and obviously there was quite a lot of money spent on the whole car, and it doesn't look much money's been spent on the engine bay, and I think you're probably right. So I think it's very honest. It just needs a good tidy up. The inner wings need a good clean and polish and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. It just, you know, hasn't been beautified very much. by far and away the biggest area of discussion was, where did the £11,000 restoration money go into this car? Well, here I've got the answers, and I'm not going to tell you what the company is because that's not what this is about, but I think it's a really good example of how costs can run away when you get involved with a restoration, particularly if you're paying someone else to do it. Now, the original estimate for this car was in July 15, and that was for £4,642 plus VAT, so that's a total of 5,571, so just under £6,000, so probably about, taking a rough guess, about $7,500. Now, the work involved in that was mainly at the rear end. It was to cut out all the rot around the rear spring hangers and to sort of replace all the rusty metal work there, but also it was to remove the front wings and cut out and replace the seals, and then repaint to make good all the work there. And within that estimate, there, for the bodywork at the back to cut out for the spring hangers and so on, there was 45 hours at £45 an hour, so that's £2,000 of it. And then you've got 35 hours to cut out and replace the seals both sides. You obviously got to remove the wings, etc, etc. And that was actually charged at £40 an hour, and that was 35 hours. So just those two items together come to about £3,500 plus VAT for the labour. So that's easily where the money can go. And interesting, there's a handwritten note on here from the person that had the work done, saying that they've had obviously a phone discussion a bit later on, saying it was going to be 6k tops. Now in the September, it's gone up to £10,000, so it's already sort of jumped, what's that, 66% from their original estimate. Now, I've got the final invoice in November for this one, and there's, over and above that initial work, there's also quite a lot of other work's been done. I'll just touch on the highlights. What I'm going to do is actually scan these and put these right at the end of the video, so you can pause it and read through exactly what's there, so you can understand what was involved and what the invoice was for. And for example, not only when they did the spring hangers, they then had to replace the rear bulkhead. There were numerous floor repairs mentioned in there. There were new A panels just at the back of the wing there, inner and outer. There were some repairs to the rear arch, or just behind the rear arch and the rear valance, and then they had to paint the rear as well. Apparently it's had a Schultz rust protection throughout. So, where did the total numbers end up? Well, the parts bill was £1,852, paint and materials was £340, and the labour bill was £7,007.50, and that came with VAT to a grand total of £11,039.59. I think there's a lesson to be learnt there. What was that, originally a £5,500 estimate, and the final bill was double that. So I think that's a cautionary tale for a lot of people there. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this. We've got another update coming on this car very soon, but because we've hit another little bit of a problem, but I'm going to tell you about that next time.